Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Life in HD, where we invite special guests to come in and chat with us about human design in real life. And if you're new to this channel, I'm your host, Crystal Alferrero. I'm a human design guide and founder of the Human Design Academy. And today we're going to be exploring the life of a 2-4 splenic projector on the right angle cross of explanation, a cross that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And we're going to be speaking today with my very special guest, Vivian Vo, who's a life coach and a human design reader. Welcome, Vivian. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Yay, awesome. And so, for everyone that's joining us today, let us know a little bit more about who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. Okay. So, me and my husband, we recently left our jobs back in February of 2020. What year are we on? 2023.
I know, right? Everything just kind of meshes in together now.
I know. We got married in December, left our jobs in February, and now we're living in Asia. We both left our jobs. Yeah, me as a doctor and him in tech. We left our jobs to just be in Asia and pursue our passions, which is me life coaching and human design, and my husband music production.
Ugh, that is incredible. That's a big, big journey. And I know you've made like a lot of big life decisions in the past year. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about splenic authority specifically because you and I share authorities and, we can, even when you have the same authority, we can experience them very, very differently. So I'd love to explore how you went about making this big life decision. And also like, I don't know if you know what your partner's authority is as well, but how he came to that decision with you.
Oh,
So,
yes. Okay, so he's a 2-4 emotional authority
mm,
generator.
okay.
And it's so I mean, when we first started dating, it was both of our dreams. And then when it came to my authority, my splenic authority, I I don't know, for me, I felt it like a big feeling, like in my body, like an all body experience in a
Yeah.
way. Like I have to do this. Like for me, it's like if not now, when? Just because we just got married, we don't have kids, like we've been dreaming of this life. And so for me, it's like an all body experience.
Yeah.
Um and and also like with my hospital job, I was burning out, which I mean I kind of had to just to save up for this trip.
Hmm.
But like in terms of like a career shift, like I even for the human design course and like my life coaching, I felt it all over my body and I kept on feeling it every single day until I signed
Yeah.
up for the certification. Yeah, that's how I experienced it.
Oh, amazing. And it's funny because like I experienced the same thing when I decided to move to Spain. It wasn't like, I don't know, it was just something that was sitting in the back of my mind. And when I actually went to go book my one-way plane ticket, it was just like this full body, like euphoric feeling. But I find that only happens for me personally for like the big things, like the significant things, right?
Yeah.
And more so like on a day to day, it's either these like warning signs if it's something that's like, oh, Crystal, don't do it. Right. Or this
Yes.
hesitation and doubt. Right. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I kind of experienced it in the same way. Like for little things, it'll be more subtle. And it's okay if I kind of don't listen to it. It could be as simple as like, oh, what do I want to eat for dinner?
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like these bigger things, I do feel it every single day. It's hard for me to sleep if I don't act on it.
Hmm.
And if I don't act on it, I'm like kind of obsessed with the idea of it
Yeah.
until I take action. To like
Yeah.
to quiet everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find that like I mean, the differentiator between it being fear, because I think, a lot of people with splenic authority, when they first start experimenting, they're like, how do I know the difference between fear and it being a splenic hit, right? Or like an
Mm,
instinctive or an intuitive hit. Um, and it's like the fear kind of dissipates if you sleep on it. At least for me, I don't know if you feel the same way, but if it's something that is like knocking at your door and it won't go away, then I feel like if it always comes back, then that's kind of the universe. It's your body's intelligence telling you like, hey, this is for you. This is safe for you to go for. This is, follow me, right?
yeah, yeah, like, I think for me, like, okay, so the big life things, it in a way, it's like my splenic authority and my fear yelling at each other sometimes. Like splenic is like, do this, like, this, like your highest self,
Yeah.
like you'll be so happy. My fear is like, no way, like that is so like out of a line, like it's like scary, it's not secure, it's not stable, all these things, and they're like screaming at each other. And then there's like, and then eventually, I think just with me, like being a yoga practitioner, like quieting down, meditating on it, and reflecting, and just like really tapping into what where these fears are coming from, that also helps me dissect out if it's my splenic authority or if it's my fear. Um, yeah, and it's just a lot
Yeah.
of experimenting. There was a lot of times like I didn't listen to my authority. I didn't even know what that authority was. Like for me, I think I called it my intuition. Um, like I didn't even know what it was. And then like my mind came in to allow me to make a decision that was out of alignment with my intuition, and me reflecting on those moments that made me realize, oh wait, like I should have been listening to that inner voice and inner feeling that I had.
Right. Right. And like one of the things that you're mentioning fear, right? And part of my experience in my experiment was sometimes that fear is telling you like yes, but there's something that you need to like have in place before you go out and do that thing. Like you mentioned, you had to stay in your job to, save up to fund what you're doing right now, right? To be able to travel Asia for a year. And did you find that like, when you mentioned like when you and your husband first met, it was like a dream of yours. So was that fear kind of there for a while until you had a foundation, a financial foundation in place for you and, then got that green light?
Oh yeah, I think it's like, okay, let's not drop everything just yet. Like let's save up. Let's make sure like we don't have to worry about like practical things like money, food,
Yeah.
housing when we're
Yeah.
doing this thing that we're dreaming of, so that we don't have that stress, so that we can really just focus on like what we actually want to do, which is like life coaching and reading without that urgency of
Hmm.
needing like the finances to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, what's your husband's profile?
Oh, he's also a 2-4.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. You're both the fourth lines, and that's very foundational in a sense as well. It's like you need to have, I mean, unlike the third line, which is kind of what I did. I didn't I had like a very small cushion before I left, and
Yeah.
my mom was like, "Why don't you stay and save a bit longer?" And for me, I'm like, "No, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'll be fine. I'll figure it out." And not that I would recommend that, like maybe it could have been better. But, like I wouldn't recommend that for a lot of people. Yeah, I put myself through a lot of I guess stress, unnecessary stress doing
Oh.
that. But yeah, I find that like with fourth lines, because it's very foundational, it's like you're not someone that maybe would feel the best or feel the safest just jumping into things. You need to have things planned out, have the finances set, have that cushion before you go out and go on your big adventure, right? Um, where was I going with that? Totally lost my train of thought. Um,
My husband.
oh yeah, sorry, I got it. Did you have to do a lot of budgeting and planning to kind of figure out how to fund that one year? Or are you still kind of like have a bit of winging it in between?
So my husband is a lot more responsible in that way, I would
Okay.
say. He got me on his budgeting app plan, which is
Oh,
YNAB.
wow, that's
So
awesome.
we
What is it?
yeah, so we YNAB,
Okay,
it's like you need a budget.com.
okay.
Yeah. And then so because of this dream that we've been planning, like we both got in the app, we both started saving up for it. I just had to tell him, I was like, I told him, just let me know what number it is so that I can like save up for that. But him like planning all of that and how much we need to do, like what we have to get in place, that was like all him. And
Yeah.
so it was really helpful to have him, because if without him, I think I would have just like, I don't know what I need to do right now.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'd eventually figure it out, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, one thing I'd say is for me, like as a third line and kind of jumping into that, even though, my spleen was saying yes, um, I realized that, yes, it can be tough. It can be challenging, having that kind of approach, but you do end up figuring it out. You do end up, you end up safe. If my worst case scenario is like, okay, I ran out of money and I have to go home. And that
Yeah.
didn't end up happening. Like I figured it out. I got multiple jobs while I was there. At least like in that first year, right? And then we ended up coming back to Canada for a bit to have my daughter, and then, went back into the foundation mode again to build up our finances, to build that solid foundation. Cause of course we're welcoming a new life into the family.
Yeah.
But yeah, like your spleen knows when it's time for you to make certain changes. It's there to keep you safe. Do you ever feel like there were times that you've been misled by your splenic authority, or do you think you were just kind of misreading the signs or choosing to ignore certain signs?
I think that for me, like choosing to ignore my splenic authority has led me into more danger, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, like I remember having such a strong body reaction to like when I
Yeah.
first like met one of my exes. And
Yeah.
then I listened to my mind. I was like, oh, people say, oh, like, date your friend, blah, blah, blah. So I dated him. Turns out to be like the most traumatic relationship ever for me.
Oh,
So that ended up like hurting me a lot. And then like, I'm still like, the traumatic effects of it, I'm still like working with that, like my triggers and things from that.
yeah.
Um, so I think that was like the biggest lesson for me. When I learned about human design, I reflected back and I reflect on that moment. Like I felt it in my body to not date this person.
Yeah.
And instead, I just went with my mind and like the objective reasons why, oh, maybe I should give it a shot. And
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and did it take you a long time to eventually get out of that relationship? And were you ignoring, like, were there signs and, was your spleen telling you things throughout that relationship to get out?
Oh, yeah. Like I felt I'm not safe. Even with his family, they were really like mean to me. So even within this family, I wasn't safe. And then towards like the end of our relationship, I just realized that I was getting further and further away from myself. Like I wasn't my usual happy self anymore. And then I like all of my dreams for my life, they all changed because I was with him. Like it all
Yeah.
shifted. Like, oh well, if I'm with him, then like for example, I wanted 4 children initially. Then when I was with him and his family, I was just like, now I want none. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to raise children in this environment. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I told that I think I told that to my mom after we broke up, and then she was just like, "Oh, and that is a good sign." Like someone
Mhm.
who's like your life plan, like it all changes because of this person, and not in a good way, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And do you have an let me see your chart. Oh yeah, you do have an undefined G center. So it makes a lot of sense that, and I feel like that's kind of the nature of our undefined G center as well. Cause we both have that in common as well. But I find that, in our relationships, because we're here to sample different paths, different directions from our environment, from our relationships, in the wrong relationships, we can adapt. I mean, it becomes so easy for us to say, like, okay, well, yeah, this is also what I want. Right. And you think that's
Mhm.
exactly what you want until you get out of it. And it's only in hindsight that you realize, like, holy crap, I almost changed, like, shifted everything for this one person. I almost,
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna say like self-sabotage or abandoned my dreams, my whatever it is for this one person,
Oh,
right?
for sure. And then now that I'm here again with like a solid relationship and like someone who's like so kind and like not in any way traumatic to me, like
Mhm.
I want 4 kids again.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, yeah. So I think abandon is a good word. Like I definitely abandoned like whatever I wanted. And I definitely just shift. I didn't even think of like leaving him when I was like
mhm,
in the thick of it. I just thought, oh well, I'm just not gonna have any kids because I don't want kids in this environment. And yeah.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes I feel like well, no, not sometimes, but like I feel like in the right environments and the right relationships, and that's really what your spleen is trying to get you towards, right? Once you follow that, that's all you really need. And then the right opportunities come up, the right directions come up a lot more easily. I find that and actually in my relationships, my past relationships, I was kind of, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm also, yeah, travel is like huge for me. Exploring is huge for me. And I was in relationships with like, and not to say Capricorns are not adventurous, but like I had Capricorn relationships where it's like they're very much homebodies, and it was not compatible for the life that I wanted. At least those Capricorns that I dated. And so I needed to kind of break free from that. And not just from a travel sense, but like there was just a lot of incompatibility there. And my spleen knew it, and I was sacrificing or abandoning my desire to, like, let's say, go to a different university in a different place, abandon my dream of living in a different country and learning new languages and all of that stuff. And so it was finally like when I decided to go against all of that, it took a long time. It took a lot of suffering. And I think, for both of us, sometimes those big changes need to be made where when we're in a place, when the pain of like staying in that place is just way too much to deal with, right? Like we need to find a different path for us. But yeah, like it wasn't really until then that I'm like, okay, listening to my instinct right now, does it make sense? Don't have that much money saved. I mean, not that it was like I was scraping the bottom of the barrel, but still, like I could have had a bigger cushion. I was in a 6-year relationship at the time that I left. I had a stable job at the time that I left as well. And so yeah, a lot of stuff didn't make sense, but trusting that spleen is what led me to really where I am now. And had I not taken that one decision, things would be so, so, so different. Like I wouldn't have had my daughter. I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't be living here like where I am. Luckily, like we just moved and we live right by the beach, which has always been like a huge dream of mine. But I wouldn't have been able to experience that living in Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the universe works in like really strange ways because also like before this adventure of ours, I actually got an opportunity for my dream doctor hospital job. So
yeah,
like, um,
a
so
big
it's just like,
test.
yeah, it was. I felt like I was being tested, and I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
"Why would you do this?" Um, and then yeah, like one is like, "Oh, do you want to live your dream life, or do you want like the stable, secure dream job that you've been wanting since you were in like med school?"
Mhm.
Um, and like you sharing like how your life totally shifted, like leaving that relationship and like taking all these steps, it reminded me of that moment. Like, oh, like I'm like at literally a crossroads right now, and then I had to
Mhm.
like really decide. Um, so I think it's also like that all or nothing mentality that I had to work through too. Like it's not one or the other. It could be one now and maybe one later, and
Mhm.
that's okay
Exactly.
too.
Yes.
And I think that also really helps my splenic authority because and like my mind too. Like, okay, like what my splenic authority wants me to do now is this, and
Mhm.
I want to listen to that authority now, and if something changes, it's okay later. Um, but I try to tell myself like neither one is a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's like an experimentation. Like and I'll
Mhm.
see. And like what you said, like the worst that can happen is that we just go back. and then and
Exactly.
then I seek out my connections. I'm like, okay, like about that hospital job, like is it still available? Like it's okay. Like, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's funny because like I totally go through the same thing where it's like sometimes it's like your spleen, your body is telling you like yes to all these different things, but it's also saying at the same time, like, okay, prioritize. Like, what is it that you want right now? What is it that you want to take on right now? Otherwise, like, yes, it's like I personally feel this body anxiety when it's like there's too many things. And ultimately, I feel like at least lately, one thing that has really been um, calling me to create more of in my life, and I feel like I've already established a lot of this, is just creating more space, more peace, I think. And so, if I take something on, whether it's a commitment, whether it's a project, it's almost like there's this question in my body, in my mind, body, however you want to phrase this, um, is this thing going to take away my peace? Right.
Mm.
And if my body feels like, yes, you're going to be exhausted and you're going to be hating your life taking this extra commitment on, then don't do it. It's not worth disrupting your peace. And that's kind of the space that I've been right now. And of course, there's like seasons to that. Sometimes I have a lot of capacity to commit more and to do more. But it's kind of what you said. It's like doing one thing at a time. And then like maybe later, if things change, then we'll kind of like rejig it from there. But it's all just experimentation, right? And sometimes, I don't know if like this has also happened to you, but it's like you're kind of testing the edges of what you're able to take on at once. And so sometimes you might ignore your spleen telling you don't do it, not right now. And then you find yourself stuck trying to like get out of that situation. And for you, I know you also have the undefined solar plexus. So sometimes speaking up about it and like having to get out of a tough situation can also be like not draining, but it's just like, oh man, again.
Oh, yes. That that reminds me of when I was like doing my yoga business in
Mhm.
during the thick of the pandemic, and um a lot of people were doing private sessions. But as someone who's like burning out during the pandemic as well, I think I just kept on saying yes to more clients. And
Yeah.
then I definitely burnt myself out. And then but I think that was like me taking on all those clients. I think it was a lot like very fear based.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, like I'm not, I'm working as a yoga business, like more
Mhm.
clients, more security, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I would say like now that I have that cushion, like for this trip, like I guess I get to decide how many clients I want right now. At the
Mhm.
same time, I'm like,
Yeah.
I also wanna give myself enough where it's like a bit of a challenge, but not to the point of burnout too. So
Mhm.
that's kinda where I am right now. Like I'm still
Yeah.
a work in progress, and like
Yeah,
right now I'm
yeah.
just like, okay, how much is enough and how much is like too much for me to burn
Mhm.
out?
Mhm.
And like it's crazy because like, like I definitely borrow energy from others for sure.
Mhm.
Like when I'm around others, I do have a lot like a burst of energy.
Yeah.
And I'm still figuring out how much is enough for me
Yeah.
before I burn myself out. So that's still a work in progress.
Oh, totally. I think we're all kind of trying to figure that out, especially, when you come out of corporate or when you come out of like a traditional working environment or like, and for you, your hospital job, right? We're so used to a set structure or like, I'm going to say like framework for how much work can be done and how much is expected of you. But when we're the ones setting those expectations, it's so different. And sometimes it takes a lot of experimentation. And I feel like after being an entrepreneur for, I'd say 3 years now, maybe a little bit longer than that. Like, well, actually 3 years just being off full time as an entrepreneur. Um, I'm only now kind of discovering what that capacity looks like, or maybe even like over the past year. And it's thanks to human design that I'm like more aware of what my capacity is. You know what I mean? It took a lot of experimentation and a lot of, first of all, also starting a business is like another, I'm going to say project, and having to worry about your finances at the same time and navigating your energy, right? We were lucky that when we first moved back to Spain, we were able to live with my mother-in-law. So that was like a huge expense that we were not having to worry about, right? We'd still have a roof over our heads no matter what. So I'm very like fortunate in that sense. But yeah, like it does take a long time to find your flow and find out what works for you, right? But yeah, so I wanted to shift and talk a little bit more about your incarnation cross because you have the right angle cross of explanation. This is something, of course, like I feel like I've seen a lot of people with. Not to say that it's the most common, but that 4323. It's that channel that Ra has, the channel of structuring. It's the genius to freak channel. It's you know I basically okay, I'm gonna stop rambling, but basically I wanna know, I guess I wanna get more insight around, first of all, how do you experience that channel in your life? Like how have you seen it manifest in either the work you do, whether it's as a doctor in your yoga practice or when you were doing yoga, and even now, right? Or your relationships?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so when I learned about human design, I had so much more acceptance for myself, like self-acceptance when I learned that I had this channel, just because I've always felt like I was a little different and I always felt like I thought really differently. And even within like being a doctor, and I worked in like a allopathic, like allopathic medicine. So that's like Western views of doctoring. And I struggled so much just because I like patients would come in and they come in with a problem. And for me, I'm like, well, these are the solutions allopathically, but my other subset of knowledge, which I couldn't share within the confines of a hospital, was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, your chakras are all like you need to work on this specific chakra. You need to da da da. Like, so it was just like very different. So like my mind was like in one way, but then like what I had to share with them was different. So I struggled with that. And then even within I think my life, like sharing what I like my thoughts and my visions. I'm still working on that just because I struggle with like sharing it without fear and like
Mm,
unapologetically and just with just so much confidence. I struggle with that and I'm more comfortable doing that on a one-on-one basis. So like with my
mhm.
clients when I share things and they have that aha moment about like something they share and I share back. I'm like, oh, like have you like a reframe or something? Um and it lands, like I like feel really fulfilled in that moment because I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my God, like I'm like helpful with like this insight
Yeah.
versus when I share it, like I think there was one time I shared something quite vulnerable on my personal Instagram, and then like I had some unfollows by people who are like
Mhm.
directly in my circle. And then
Mhm.
so that made me feel like, oh, I shouldn't be sharing. But like the more I'm reminded that I have this channel, it's like it's not for everybody and it's okay. And I have to remind that like for myself like over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, like easing into it. A lot of people that have this channel, not everyone, I'm going to say, not everyone has that opportunity, or not everyone is able to freely express themselves and express their insights. Right. So sometimes it's like maybe they don't have a safe environment or safe relationships to share these things with, and they don't resonate with it. They don't feel connected to it. And so, how has your environment affected your ability to express these insights for you freely? Like, how have you noticed the shift in your voice and your ability to, I'm going to say, like, transmit your insights freely?
So I think this first step is like recognizing where this silencing of self is coming from. For me, it was my upbringing. Like I grew up, I'm Vietnamese American, so the our not our culture, but like the traumas that's been passed down is like very patriarchal. So in my household, I grew up saying, "Oh, because you're a girl, you cannot do this.
Mhm.
Because you're a girl, you cannot talk back. Like, oh, you're talking back. Like this is not right." So I feel like in my upbringing, I was silenced a lot, and just like in like our American society, it's like a lot of like, oh, the Asian minority myth, like, oh, like, they're shy and timid, like they don't speak out. Da, da, da. So a lot of this messages from like my external environment has told me to silence myself. So learning that about myself and recognizing that like, hey, and like where I feel my best self and my most comfortable self, I am sharing like my insights naturally and freely flowing and it lands. And
Mhm.
so, and just like noticing, I think for me, like my environment is really important as well. Um, so creating enough safety in my environments as well,
Mhm.
and recognizing like on like platforms like social media, I think recognizing that like, hey, not like people can leave, like they don't have to follow me if they don't like what I'm sharing, and that's okay. And I also like made like so people do respond and they're like, oh my God, like your posts have been really helpful for me. I screenshot those and I create like a hype file.
Oh, I
And then
love
I'm just
that.
like
Mhm.
reminded. Yeah, I just remind myself, I'm like, okay, it's helpful. It's not because sometimes when I share things, there is like a fear, like, oh, I don't want to share this. Like, what will people think of me? And on when I remember to, I'll open up my hype file and
Mhm.
I'll remind myself that, hey, it was helpful for a lot of people. So like continue sharing my insights. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really, really important. Um, and I noticed that in your design, you also have the 6124, right? And so when
Mm.
we have the channel of awareness right at the top from the head to the ajna. And so whenever we see those two, I forget where I heard this from, but wherever we see the channel of awareness and the channel of structuring kind of like going straight down in the middle, we call this like the freaky mind. So it's almost like, do you feel this impulse, or not maybe this impulse or this pull to like express kind of freaky insights or things that might be out of the ordinary, unconventional? And what's like the reaction to of other people when you do share these things?
It depends. It depends on who I'm sharing with, because I think my side, like, so me, I'm not talking about me and like my husband. Like my husband's side, they're very like analytical, I think, and very logical
Yeah.
brained science people. I would say I'm pretty science brain too, just because I went to the doctor field. But my side is more open to like
Hmm.
the spiritual realm and like when I share about astral planes and like mediumship and things like that,
Yeah.
like my side are just like, oh, what? Like, tell me more.
Yeah.
And then like I think my husband's side is like, what? Like, so, but I'm just like, for me, I think I'm like, I know that about myself and I'm okay with it now, kind of. And I think for me, I'm just like, okay, I'll just plant seeds for the people who are not like really there yet or really ready, or maybe
Hmm.
they'll never be ready. Um, but I share my experiences and then I'll just let them decide. And I try not to be worried if they believe me or anything like that. And I try not to care so much about that because I'm like, it's my
Hmm.
experience and I'm really benefiting from this. And for like my side, if I can gift them the gift of like a reading or like a mediumship or like anything like that, and they're open to it, I'm like happy to do that. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And we both have that undefined heart as well. So it's like huge to learn how to express yourself freely and not feel like you have to defend yourself, not feel like you have to prove what it is that you're saying. Like I feel like that's been one of the biggest learning curves for me as well. But yeah, I realized I started talking about incarnation cross and then I went right into right into your channels. So yeah, kind of going back to incarnation cross. So the right angle cross of explanation for anyone that's watching that isn't, too familiar with it. The way that I like to interpret it is it's a very, again, like revolutionary cross. You're here to stand strong in your principles and create change through your insights and through your solutions, your answers that you bring, right? Those logical answers that you're bringing. So how have you kind of seen that theme play out in your life?
Well, first, thank you for reminding me what that is. Like sometimes it's like I need these
Yeah.
reminders too, you know? So like I would say I I definitely care a lot about like social justice issues. And there have been times where people sometimes honestly I just reshare things on like my social media or like send these to my newsletter or I'm like talking about it with friends. But people have shared with me that I'm the only person in their circle who like talks about these issues, which surprises me because I just feel like it's like the state of the world. But I think sometimes it's important to talk about the issues that are important to me. And when people share that, oh, I'm the only one who's like bringing this to light in their lives, it makes it feel further important to continue sharing. Um, at the same time of like also protecting my energy, um, and not being in the suffering of like the state of the world too. Um, and yeah, I would say that like I think people have even like responding back to my newsletters and like just sharing like, oh my gosh, I have never heard it explained in that way. Um,
Mhm.
it helps provide me to like just opening up my throat chakra and like just talking about it more and more. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And so I know you mentioned that you have a lot of things that you're fighting for that are important for you, right? Causes that are important for you. So my question is, you have that gate 49, of course, in your incarnation cross, that gate of principles. It's that revolutionary. So what change do you wish to see in the world? Like what are one of? I know there's probably a lot of things, but is there anything that stands out for you?
Oh my gosh. Um, right now, I I think for right now, I would say women's rights in like the world, because we know that like when we invest in the woman, the communities just do better. Um, Off the top of my head, I'm just thinking specifically in like the book I recently read. It's called Half the Sky, and it's just basically when we invested in a woman, the women tend to take care of the kids. We're better at managing finances. Not saying men are like horrible or anything, but when men
Mhm.
manage the finance, like there's like more diseases because of like prostitution, alcoholism, drug use, things like that. But when the women have money and education, the community
Mhm.
goes further. So I'm all about women's rights right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
And I think for those also with my shared gate, I would say like for me, like I struggled because I'm like, there's so many things that I care about. And what I learned for myself is just like whatever it is right now, that's something I can focus on right now, and it's
Yeah.
okay. Um, yeah.
Yeah. There's like a huge, I'm going to say like similar to the gate 30. I don't know if you have the gate 38 as well. Yeah, you do. Okay. Well,
Oh, I
that
do.
makes a lot of sense. So the gate of the fighter. But yeah, there's like this huge I'm going to say importance for especially as a projector, right? To learn to fight or learn to discern which battles are worth fighting and which ones are important to you right now. Cause it's like there are so many possible um battles and causes to fight for. But of course, like we're human. We're one person, and yeah, energetically, emotionally, mentally, it would just be exhausting. So being discerning about that is important. Um, and yeah, do you see yourself like, using that 4323 more in your life to speak up about these types of issues, women's rights? Do you see yourself not necessarily making it a part of your business, but do you see this as being a part of what it is that you do going into the future?
Yes. I think one of my dreams as a coach and human design reader is to work with those who are working within these sectors so that
Mm,
they can live their best lives. And I because I don't want anyone to be a martyr.
mm,
What I'm noticing on social media, especially, is that there's a lot of like fight energy and there's a lot of burnout within these spaces.
yeah.
And so I would love to work with them to also have them have an enjoyable life. Like I don't want to believe that life is meant to be all about suffering. And I want like yes, we can fight for these causes, but we can also live joyfully for ourselves and the
Mhm.
people around us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message. And I think that's really important for a lot of activists and, people in this realm also need to remind themselves of, you get to enjoy life as well. And not to say that they don't enjoy life, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always have to be what you were saying, like that fighting energy. And I've seen a lot of people in the space that are shifting away from that slowly. But there's
Mhm.
still a lot that, maybe are coming into it and are still in that space. And again, like you see the burnout, you see the exhaustion happening, and it just makes that fighter side, that volatility a lot more amplified in that way
Mhm.
as well when you're burning out. And yeah, I guess kind of going off of that, because I know you mentioned you want to work with a lot of these people as well, but is there anything that you're offering right now or that you're working on right now that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I am coaching and I am giving out free coaching sessions right now. And then I'm also giving out human design readings. So if anyone's interested, they can reach out or book a session.
Awesome. So I'm going to leave all of Vivian's information in the description below for you. So you can reach out to her, you can speak to her to learn more and connect. And yeah, I guess to wrap up our conversation for today, one thing that I usually like to ask is what is your favorite quote or mantra if you have one?
The one I've been working with lately has been feel the fear and do it anyway.
Oh, that's a big one. That is huge. Like it sounds so simple and it gets to be simple. And yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, Vivian, for being here, for sharing your experience, for being vulnerable with us today. And yeah, thank you. And I hope you have an
Oh,
amazing, amazing rest of your year in Asia. Oh my goodness.
oh, of course. Thank you for having me.